Welcome to the Houston Squirrel Podcast. Today, my guest is David, co owner of Class Bookstore. David, thank you so much for being with us today. How are you doing?
I'm doing well. Thank you so much for having me, Thomas. I appreciate it.
Yeah, happy to have you. So, you're co owner of Class Bookstore. Tell us about Class Bookstore.
So, Class Bookstore is a independently owned, family operated bookstore based in Houston, Texas. My wife and I co-own the store. We have been in existence since November 2020, and we have been in our brick and mortar shop since 2022, December 2022.
What makes Class Bookstore different from typical bookstore?
I think what makes us different, honestly, is the fact that you're when you come in. First and foremost, we call ourselves your neighborhood niche bookstore.
Mhm.
We have nonfiction as the majority of books that we carry. And so when people come in, normally when you walk into a general bookstore, you're looking for fiction books, you're looking for novels. We don't have a lot of that.
Mhm.
But we do have a lot of the other subjects within nonfiction. So we carry history books, we carry theology and religion. We have a womanist, feminist section. We have a sports section. We even have a fashion and sneaker section as well. So that's really, in essence, what makes us different from many other bookstores that you'll go into, especially the larger big box stores, your Barnes and Nobles, Books a Million, etc.
Mhm. So, is there a particular reason you've chosen to do nonfiction and no fiction?
Um, Great question. So when we started out, we did initially sort of lean toward having both fiction and nonfiction, but as we began to do pop-ups, pop-up markets, vendor markets, more and more people were just in pursuit of nonfiction. They wanted more history, especially in the realm of Black history and social justice issues. And so, we were always of the inclination: sell what people want. If
Mhm.
they tell you they want apples, you better sell them apples or you won't be in business. So
Mhm.
when more and more people, as we encountered those people, they would tell us, "Hey, I'm looking for this book and that book," and all the books that they were asking for were nonfiction. So we just decided to lean into that really, really hard. Probably around the third year we were open.
That's really cool. What genre of nonfiction, of like the sections you mentioned, you think are the most popular in your store?
I think the most popular is Black history, due to the fact of the community that we service. Right now, our brick and mortar is based in Third Ward, which is a historically Black community, and so the majority of the people that come in our store are coming in looking for books about Black history. I would say second most popular section would be the social justice political section, and that's pretty much due to the current time that we're in. I would say, like, right around the time we opened in 2020, there were a lot of people who began to start to pursue knowledge about themselves, knowledge about their culture, their history, and also knowledge about politics, like empowering themselves politically and knowing how to become involved in the political process.
It's interesting. Being a election year, are you seeing more people looking for those type of books right now?
Yes, emphatically, yes, 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 yes. People, as a matter of fact, um, uh, the the as we get closer and closer to election day, for example, I had a gentleman reach out to me today, looking for books about political parties. I've had people ask me about books on Project 2025 because they wanted to, know what the topics are. I mean, Project 2025, that document is 700 pages long. And so we sort of went through the document and we found the hot button topics
Hmm.
and found books related to those different topics. And so we compiled a list and we put that list on our bookshop.org website, which is another entity that we use to give access to books to our customer base. Since our store is very niche, we use our bookshop to carry the books that we want to carry, but we just don't have the space in the physical shop to carry. And so we have that whole list, the Project 2025 list. You can find it on our bookshop.org website.
Yeah, whenever I was going through your website and social media, I saw that list. It's so interesting. I'm sure there's a lot of interest in general in that and just everything political this year. Especially you mentioned the
Man.
political parties. I'm sure there's so many questions.
Oh yeah, of course. I mean, like, and really, honestly, like, it's all different ages. It's
Hmm.
not. You would think like, oh, it's just the old people that watch CNN and MSNBC and or even Fox News. It's really younger people who are seeking to empower themselves politically and to know more about the political process. Those are a lot of our customers that are coming in that are, hey, I'm looking for the, or I saw this book on the news or on TikTok. Do you have it? I saw this book on Instagram on some other Instagram influencer was promoting this book. Do y'all have it? And so yeah, we just tell them, hey, we either got it or we can order it for you. And then normally they'll say, okay, order it for me. I'm ready to, have it shipped, and I'll ship it to them, no problem.
That's awesome. You mentioned ages. What's kind of like the average age of someone comes to your store, or is it just wide spectrum?
Um, so it's a couple of different things, right? There we have a pretty strong, I would say, 25 to 25 to 40-year-old audience, right? College kids, people just graduated from college. And when I say college kids, I mean like people who are pursuing their masters, like people who are in college pursuing a master's, um, or people who just graduated with their masters. We get a lot of young urban professionals, and then we have another category of consumer that comes in who are our elders in the community. So that group ages late 50s to late 60s. Those are the people who come in for our poetry night every first Sunday, who order books for their grandkids during the holidays, who buy books for themselves whenever they watch MSNBC, CNN,
Yeah.
and also, books. A lot of them are rebuilding their libraries that they previously had when they were in college. So, like, they'll say, "Oh man, I remember having Miseducation of the Negro by Carter G. Woodson, but I gave my copy away to a friend and they never gave it back." And so we tell them, "Oh, we can order that for you." Or if we happen to have it on the shelf, we're like, "Oh, here it is, boom!" And they're reunited with a book that they had maybe 30, 35 years ago that they gave to a friend and never got back. So those are the two main audiences that come in our shop. Like I said, 25 to about 30, close to 40, and then the elder community, late 50s to early 60s.
Gotcha. And kind of changing a little bit, what inspired you to open Class Bookstore?
Man, I love, 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 love this question. So back in 2012, I I knew I wanted to start a business. I had just left. Borders Bookstore, and that was a dream that I always had. I always wanted to work in a bookstore, and I got a chance to do it. Shouts out to Thomas. I worked with him for a little while. We were coworkers. But in 2012, I knew I wanted to do something like my own business. I wasn't quite sure if it was going to be a bookstore, but I knew I wanted to do something, of my own, right? Initially, it was going to be a streetwear and sneaker shop, and that particular place was going to be called Class. That was going to be the name of the shop. And then I started talking to people who worked in that industry at that time, and they were like, David, they were like, this. I was like, man, like, how do I get my foot in the door? They're like, man, this is a bad time. They're like, and they were like, I can give you the real. And I was like, yeah, give me the real. How much would it cost for me to start my own sneaker shop, my own streetwear shop? And a really good friend of mine who I trust his business acumen told me it's going to take at least $100,000, like to have a space full build out with merchandise on the hangers and on the shelves. I was 23 at the time. I did not have the money to start Class Books to start Class, the streetwear shop. But I held on the name, I held on the concept, and when my wife and I went on a trip to California, this was in 2015. She was like, "Man, we should do a bookstore." And I was like, okay. I still kind of had in my mind like having the bookstore in the front and the sneakers and the streetwear in the back. But then I just was like, you know what? Let's just develop one of those things first. And then if we get that off the ground, then we can bring in the other one. So I said, well, let's start with the bookstore. She was like, okay, let's do it. So that was in 2015. And we set off on a journey to connect with other bookstores throughout the country. We went to California, we went to New Orleans, we went to DC, we went to Chicago, we went to Long Beach in California. We went to all these different places. And everywhere we went, we looked for three things. First thing we look for is where the black people live. Second place we looked for was a Jamaican food spot because we love Jamaican food. And the third place was the black owned bookstore because we wanted to ask them, how are you surviving in a world of Amazon? How are you surviving in a world where there is a literal conglomerate that has every book, like every book imaginable, and they're selling it at a lower cost than you, and not only that, they're shipping it to you the next day. And as we did our this market research, just going to these different bookstores, they all were saying the same thing. Another three. The first thing they said was sell what people want. Second thing they said, be consistent in your opening and closing. And the third thing they said was be a fixture in your community. Give back. Whatever community you decide to start your store, give back. And so we took those tenets to heart. And in 2020, we made effort to start toward building the business. A little thing called COVID-19 happened, and it shut down a lot of stuff. But we were very fortunate and very blessed to have people who believed in us as a business and believed in us as individuals that wanted to see a bookstore come alive in Houston. So they gave us some grant money. We got about $1,000 to start with, and we used our $800 credit card. We had an $800 limit on it, and we used that card to buy our inventory, our first set of books for the online bookstore that we started. And that's how Class got started, in a nutshell, man. And we've been rocking and rolling ever since. We still are online. We still do pop ups. But now that we have a brick and mortar, we definitely are seeking to bring people into the shop. And fortunately, we've done some things that have been quite successful. So we're still here.
That's awesome. Was it a big shock going from being just online to having brick and mortar?
Yes, it was a big shock, and the reason why was because having a brick and mortar in year two was not a part of the original plan. The original plan was year five we would be in a
Oh,
brick and mortar, because a big part of the reason is we both work day jobs still. So my wife and
mhm.
I, we still work our day jobs. So having a brick and mortar, a traditional brick and mortar in our mind, we were like, well, somebody's got to be there every day. And if we're still working day jobs, it's not going to be us, and we don't have enough money to hire a person. So how's that going to look? But we made it. I mean, once the opportunity presented itself, you'll be surprised at how the human mind really starts to it starts to click and it starts to work. So we were like, well, what if we just show up Saturdays and Sundays? What if we open a brick and mortar on Saturdays and Sundays? And I was like, okay, cool. So we started doing that. And then during the holidays, we start opening on Fridays because we were like, well, holidays are coming. We need to be open more days of the week so that we can give people opportunities during the week to shop. And on Saturdays and Sundays, they can be with their family. So people start showing up on Fridays. And it was great because it was like, okay, cool. It means that, people are paying attention to us being in the shop, being consistently in the shop, and, give and they're honoring that opportunity. But yes, initially it was a shock, like I said, because it definitely wasn't in the plan. But fortunately, we had a plan that we were able to modify and sort of bring forward a lot of the things that we had planned once we got into a brick and mortar.
That's really cool. I know people sometimes get some a vision in their mind, and being flexible, you can really take advantage of those opportunities when they arise.
I agree.
Um,
Yeah.
yeah. And then you mentioned you co-own with your wife. What's it like owning a business with your spouse?
It's I would say this, man, it's been great. And quite honestly, we tell each other this all the time. She's not here right now, so I can definitely say this with full confidence because I tell this to her face all the time. I can't imagine opening Class Bookstore without her. It definitely would not be the same kind of business. It would be similar, but it wouldn't be the same. And I think there's a certain magic and a certain element to being able to work cohesively with your spouse. Is it every day sunny, bright, shining? No, because she is her own person. I am my own person. I have my thoughts about how I want to present things. She has her thoughts on how she wants to present things. But the beautiful thing about communication is if you do it correctly, you can come to a compromise. And when you come to a compromise, it makes both of us happy to where we're like, okay, it's not quite what I wanted all the way. It's not quite what she wanted all the way, but we met in the middle and it worked. And I guarantee you, man, like if you're in something that both of y'all love and you're both passionate about, you can't lose. You can't lose. So that's how I look at
That's awesome. Yeah, communication. I can only imagine that's got to be key.
it. Yeah, man. I mean, there's been, like with us, starting out, we the business was literally in our apartment. So
Mhm.
there were once we got started, there wasn't a day that we didn't talk about it at least once. Whether it's
Mhm.
what kind of books are we going to order, when are we going to order them, how are we going to ship them off, like you know, just all those things. And of course, when you're operating as a business with your family, you have to begin to say, I'm going to carve out time to talk with my wife about the business and then cut it off. I'm not going to talk about the business after
Mhm.
this hour, right? Now, if you're in a groove and y'all are talking and it's all good and it's all positive, then yes, don't stop the groove. But if you're just bringing up the business because you don't have anything else to talk about, that's not the way to go. The way to go
Right.
is she is your spouse first, and then business partner. And she is my business partner, right? Like, she has as much say so about the product that we carry, how the store looks, the aesthetic of the store, as I do. Um, and I would like to say this and put it on the record. There was a person that was here Sunday, because we're open Friday, Saturday, Sunday. There's somebody here Sunday, and she was like, I like the way you say, that's the co-owner, And I don't even know any other way to say it. Like, that's who my wife is. She is the co-owner of Class. She has just as much, say so as I do. So that's how I look at it.
That's amazing. What about the rest of like your family, her family? Is everyone pretty supportive of the business?
Yeah, man. So, as a matter of fact, when we were building out the store, her family came and like hung shelving. They hung up. So we have like paintings and posters and stuff on the wall. They did all of that, and they're 100% like they support. They buy books from us, which is great because they used to buy them from Barnes and Noble. And then it was like, hey guys, we got a bookstore now, so all your books you buy from us. Of course, family discounts. They get all the family discounts.
Mhm.
Um, my side of the family is also supportive. Aunts and uncles have come through. Both of my parents are deceased, but before my dad died, I remember he was one of the first people I talked to about Class Bookstore, and I knew he was supportive from the jump because he asked me two questions. First question he asked was, what type of books you're going to sell? And then I explained, I went down the line, boom, 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 boom. And then the second question he asked, are y'all going to sell textbooks? And I knew that was him being supportive because he was the type of person that always thought about the next way to like be able to make money on a business. He was an accountant by trade.
Mm.
So like he was like, "Are you going to sell textbooks?" And I said, "Well, I don't know." I was like, "I'll figure out how to do it if I can do it." Unfortunately, he passed away after I learned before I learned that being an indie bookstore, I can't sell textbooks
Oh.
because Barnes and Noble has they've cornered the market on selling college textbooks to students, and also Follett, another distributor. They've sort of cornered that market. So like when you apply to publishers that produce textbooks, they ask you on the application if you're affiliated with the university, and if you're not, then they will not allow you to open an account.
It's interesting.
So that's why we don't sell. That's why we don't sell new textbooks.
And so I wanted to give you an opportunity to talk about the best way to support Class Bookstore.
Man, great question. First way is by following us on social media. We are on Instagram. We are on Twitter, X. I don't know exactly what to call that yet, but I'm gonna call it Twitter. We are on Facebook, and we're on TikTok, and we have a YouTube channel. You can find all of those things when you type in Class Bookstore, CLASS. It's not an acronym, so you don't have to put dots in between. But Class Bookstore, and then if you want to support us monetarily, you can find us on our website at www.classbookstore.com. You can also find us on bookshop.org. So, bookshop.org is a nonprofit organization that partners with independent bookstores, and we're able to sell through their platform. We're able to sell books that we would not be able to carry because of the space in our store, on our bookshop. And when you buy books through our bookshop, we receive a percentage of that sale as a kickback from bookshop.org. We recognize that Amazon is always going to be here. They're a huge, conglomerate juggernaut. They're always going to be here, no matter what, right? So fortunately, other entities have recognized that and have created an infrastructure which allows independent bookstores to compete with Amazon. So, like I said, if you want to support an independent bookstore, buy the book from the bookstore, or if they have a bookshop, support their bookshop. If you don't read physical books, but you're interested in purchasing, let's say, an audiobook, buy it from their Libro.fm bookshop. So Libro.fm is a website and an app that allows for people to listen to audiobooks. It's kind of like Audible, but the difference is that Libro.fm, like bookshop.org, supports independent bookstores directly. So again, if you want to support us, follow us on social media, tell people about us. That's the first level. Second level is if you want to support us monetarily, purchase a book from us through our website or from our bookshop.org or our libro.fm. Third level of support is by coming to our events. So we have author signings, meet and greets, and we normally sell tickets to those events. Buy a ticket to that event. Come through, support. Tell a friend to buy, a ticket. We bundle. We normally bundle the ticket with the admission of the event. So when you buy a ticket, you're literally purchasing a copy of the book with it. Um, but we also have free tickets to those events as well, because we recognize, again, like I was saying earlier with the nonprofit aspect, we recognize that there are certain people within our community who may not be able to afford a ticket, right? But they want to be a part of this event. So we give those individuals a chance to be able to take part in our events as well. And that's how you can support us.
Cool. Well, thank you so much for being on the podcast today. It's been awesome. Um, we'll definitely make sure to send as much traffic your way as we can.
Thank you so much, Thomas, and thank you so much for allowing us to be on your platform. You know, it's people like yourself who recognize that independent bookstores are not only still a thing, but they are relevant within the community. They provide a resource to the community, and we want to thank you for allowing us and for us to have space on your platform.